on the blue stream. Very excited to get this started.
Marcus, let's do this.
Let's do this, buddy.
Yes, the treaties have been signed. We're going to go into test bug whenever Marcus starts the game.
That's what you were.
Yeah.
I have to hit the yellow button.
The bright.
There
we go. And the countdown has started. The map's going to be Icy Cup test bug. Give it cheer for your players, Morrow and Slog from FXO. And hear the crowd going nuts. The SC2 community, more commonly known as the greatest group of people known to mankind.
The best.
No doubt. Test bug, a very unusual 3-player map. We'll see all the interesting features of this map as we proceed into the game. Can't wait.
I can't wait either. And, you know, as we get into test bug, one of the things that I think is so cool about this map is, you know, it's a 3-player map for one. Which obviously adds a little bit to it, but you've also got these sort of different locales. As you can see, FXOSlog, our Protoss, is going to be spawning in the northwest position, and this is also the forestry area. This is the only place where vegetation grows on this map. Of course, it's really bad when the Zerg spawn there because they essentially kill the vegetation. And then over here, MouzMorrow, our red Zerg, he's going to be in the ashy, sandy, sort of deserty climate, and it does change drastically. No one's going to be spawning over here in Metalsville. But yeah, test bug's a really cool map, and one of the things that you mentioned yesterday was the expansions in the middle that have these rocks that actually protect or block the minerals rather than the place where you are putting your hatchery, your command center, your nexus, etc. And just kind of a cool little difference here from some of the other maps that we see on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Definitely going to do a ton of talking about the map and why it's very interesting. As we proceed into this match, just want to note that Slog is going to get the fortunate coin flip scout. He could have scouted south, he could have scouted right, went to the right, is going to find Morrow first. We see Slog really wanting Morrow to have a lot of luck in this match, and we see Morrow trying to send a drone out, could potentially go for an early expand, but we see that Slog, interestingly, not going to go for any expand himself, favoring to build that gateway at his ramp. Couple basics about the formation on this map. You have a relatively easily defendable expansion, though this entrance is quite wide, as demarcated by this little stone pebbly path. Kind of hard to close off that space. The real question is, how do you get a third? You can go to this high ground expansion over here, or you technically could go to the identical shaped high ground expansion to the left. But notice how far away this distance is. Even in the mini-map, you need to have this whole region defended. And the way to do that is to take down these destructible rocks that have a Xel'Naga watchtower hiding underneath there. Barely recognize it right there. So because it's hard to get a third base, we're going to see players favor big armies to try to do as much damage as they can early on, because units are the only way that you're going to be able to secure additional expansions.
Slog did throw down a pylon there to block the hatchery. It was canceled upon getting back up, and we do have Morrow now just now taking his gas. And the probe is going to come off just a little bit. Gateway's gone down in the cybernetics core as well. Probe checking out the inside of his opponent's base. And, you know, one thing to be said about the map as well in this main base is just how much of a footprint you have inside your main. Normally you have a select amount of space and then you're kind of having to move your base out, but in this case, even south of your nexus or your hatchery here, you just have an enormous amount of space. And this is also the map where In Control famously basically in base pylon warp gated TLO at the last MLG.
We are seeing Slog now build himself a sentry, going to be able to not just get a little bit of defense with that force field early on, but also to pick off this scouting drone. Morrow's actually getting a lot of information. When you take your geysers is the biggest signifier of what your strategy is going to be. So we're going to see Morrow know at the very least that his opponent is going for something one base heavy. He sees this extra gateway get thrown down. Would not be surprised to see Slog throw down a second gateway. In Morrow's base, we see that he has one queen out. He is getting Zergling speed, but has only just started it. A somewhat late Zergling speed, but we've seen Morrow utilize this opening when he goes for a Zergling-Baneling aggression mix. And wow, look at this, Marcus. A very early Forge going down for FXOSlog.
You know, it might be indicative of some of these Protoss players who really like to get that early start on their upgrades, despite the fact that they may not have a huge ground army to start. With the Chrono Boost, obviously the Protoss can really accelerate the research of those upgrades, but at the same time he could be using it possibly just to reinforce his expansion here, as there is a wider area versus the Zerg, something to keep in mind. A lot of open space to get in. He does have the force fields with the sentries, but it might, to be safe than sorry, we'll just keep an eye on that now that it is up. If we just see a cannon go down or something of the fact. Now we do have Morrow, and just look at the amount of drones he has right now. He is up to 31 to his opponent's 27, but that late speed kind of gave him the ability to go ahead and drone up, and he did pull all of his drones off gas after speed and research, and it is finishing up right now. We will have the Nexus going down, and or for our Protoss player right now, and there's the cannon, just looking for some additional reinforcement there for that natural.
I want to just briefly point out the fact that Slog accidentally didn't upgrade this to a warp gate. Upgraded one of the gateways, but not the second. That's a clear sign that his head isn't quite as focused as he would like at this point in time. Always a very, very big danger when you're starting off a tournament match, because always game one of the day, your hands are a little bit cold. They haven't quite warmed up. It's still a little early. Players have been playing a lot all last night. Slog doesn't quite seem ready to begin playing at this hour of the day. We see a second photon cannon going down. You know, this is actually a very good time to talk about openings for players who are, are perhaps a little bit unfamiliar with StarCraft 2. In this game, you always have these units at your disposal. You want to plan all your fancy strategies. Oftentimes, there are strategies that are so solid that you can do them every single game, and even if your opponent sees, you're still going to be in good shape. Nothing wrong with, for instance, doing what Morrow's doing, building a lot of drones, not making units, and getting Zergling speed. You're focused on economy, but you get that speed upgrade so you can just in case make a bunch of Zerglings at the last second to help defend yourself. And that's why we keep coming back to Slog and going, that's a little bit unusual, because this is a departure from that really solid expand strategy that we see Protosses do so frequently. This very early Forge was a little questionable, didn't quite get this upgrade started as early as he could have.
Yeah, and not throwing down the Chrono Boost on there either as well, but he's still going to go ahead and get it going. On the other side, I mean, you can see Morrow's going to be focusing on his upgrades with 2 Evo chambers right now, and he will be taking that third at the gold expansion, so the rocks will be going down. And, based off of the fact that 2 more gas taken here from Morrow, starting to get those upgrades go. His tech is going, as Lair is going to be completing here momentarily. Also went ahead and got the Baneling's Nest going up as well. So really in a good spot, especially if he does manage to just drop these rocks and gets this gold up without any sort of contention at all.
Marcus, I know what your favorite thing about Zerg is. It's spreading the creep, Marcus.
Yes.
I know that 100% to be true. Look at this creep spread by Morrow, getting that early third queen to goop out as many of those creep tumors as he possibly can. Look at already spreading a huge amount out into the center. Going to be really important. Always want to join your bases together with creep. Here's that gold expansion we were talking about earlier. These rocks did not prevent Morrow from planting the hatch, but it will prevent Morrow from utilizing this expansion, so that way he can expand and kill it off at the same time.
And in the middle, we see the spine crawlers move up as the creep make that accessible. The tower is taken over here. Now we have the middle tower being taken out by the Zerglings as well to try to get, or excuse me, the tower close to a Slog's base. And we will see these rocks at the gold go down pretty soon. It does look like you can mine from just the outside patches, so Morrow will immediately get that going, and these lings are going to be chased off as Slog will make an advancement forward. We can see Ventral Sacks on the way. Overlord speed is just finishing, and with that kind of a wall-in that you were going to do with the Protoss, it really eliminates the Zerg's ability to attack from the front. It's just kind of like, I'm going to take down this concrete wall with my head. Don't do it. And so he figures out an alternate means of getting into the base. And remember, we talked about how large your opponent's base is. Drops seem like a great opportunity for that. Now, the amount of Banelings that Morrow is getting right now is quite high. He always has several, but his Baneling speed not quite done yet, so there could be an opportunity for an attack here from Slog, which could do better. However, with Ventral Sax finishing up, he obviously will want to drop those Banelings on the army.
Huge creep spread by Morrow. Slog already getting a little bit leery of advancing forward, but he does have Blink. This is exactly what Slog needs to do. Again, very hard to get a third base, so what do we see out of Slog? We see, it looks like 7 gateways, 3 there, 4 in the back, 7 total generally. You get 4 or 5 and then take a faster third. We're going to see Slog get 7 and then take a really slow third, and it looks like Morrow is amassing this gigantic force of Zerglings and Banelings loaded up into the Overlord. Slog is trying to swing around to this top side. It looks like Slog could be in a really dangerous position. He's throwing down a lot of great forces.
Oh my God!
He blocked him in! He blocked all his own units in, blinking out at the last second to try to avoid those Banelings, but Morrow looking unstoppable. Crushing that force.
I mean, the force field's going down, and you're sitting there with confidence at the Protoss, and you're saying, oh yes, good thing I have these force fields. And then you realize that you just put yourself into prison. And as a result, unfortunately, while the Stalkers were able to escape with the Blink, everything else that was going to die immediately to the Banelings went down, including that ball of sentries that he had. He lost only the Banelings that went in for the attack. Very few Lings were actually needed to be sacrificed there. So a beautiful, beautiful execution coming out by Morrow. Just phenomenally done.
I mean, it's so interesting to see drop used as a component to a big army. The fact that we're seeing Morrow use those drops just constantly just annihilate anything that we're seeing thrown at him, whether it be a Colossus army, whether it be this Stalker army. And Slog looks like responding to this Zergling Baneling mixture by going Archon Zealot, but he doesn't realize that there's an Overlord on the high ground seeing everything that's going on, and this is one of the most dangerous moments for Protoss. When this +2 melee attack finishes, it means that these sort of Baneling drops can be a lot more effective. We saw Slog pull those units away at the last second, didn't really lose any of those probes, but if he did have +2, it means that a Baneling can kill probes in one hit.
And he did have another drop going on here at the natural expansion, and it did get quite a few probes. You could just see based off of some of the health bars of the probes how hurt they were. So it was a double drop, and while the one in the main was not really effective, the one at the natural did an enormous amount of damage. So more Lings coming out, and it's amazing to see that this is primarily a Ling Baneling army from Morrow. I mean, he's got his upgrades. He's now at 2-2, and we see Infestors coming out with the Neuroparasite as well, and he's going Hive, which will allow him to not only get 3-3 for those Lings, but also the Adrenal Gland, which makes those Lings oh so juicy.
So now we're seeing Slog actually opting to wall his front end with pylons. This is one of these subtle moves that I don't think gets enough appreciation. Slog was having drops all over the place, was worried about his main, worried about his probes, had to pull guys back to defend. So what does he do? He walls himself in temporarily, so that way he can establish himself in a good, solid position. We're going to see Morrow go on the offensive again. No reason to delay. Morrow, much like Idra, utilizing these drops to force an entire pullback of this army. Oh no, Slog is walled off from his own main. Morrow now swinging in with a ton of Zerglings. Very little Slog can do.
Oh my gosh, the Robo facility goes down. The Twilight Council is in danger. Some of these gateways as well. We are going to finally see the Zealots move in, and you know, Slog was smart trying to get those units through, but in the choke. Oh!
Doing more Baneling drops. This is just remarkably aggressive Zerg from Morrow. We've seen him utilizing this style more and more and more, making Ling Baneling his benchmark style. Look at this Zergling count. He has 166 Zerglings.
That's absolutely insane, and he's got the Infestors there for backup. He's got the Banelings loaded up into the Overlords, and we are going to see 2-2 on those. We got +3 melee attack on the way, and it looks like Zerg is ready. Well, maybe not. He wants to get in a good position before he finally decides to go in. The Archons are going to try to take this damage, and the big, huge Lynx around the swarm is coming out. There's the Baneling drop. Slog says GG, and game one is over.
As Idra would like to say, Archon Zergling is very good against Zealots. That was going to be extremely difficult for Slog to win after that early failed Blink Stalker sentry push. And you know, it's interesting. Protoss is used to go for a really fast Stalker sentry push. But then Zerg's got better and better at holding, so Protoss, rather than try to do anything more all-in-ish, said, well, I'll attack a little later. I'll wait till I have Blink. I'll wait till I have a higher amount of Stalkers. And we've seen consistently very, very good Protosses be able to knock down the best of the best Zergs with that style push. Minigun, actually, recently on Idra's stream, managed to take out Idra 3 games in a row with that Blink Stalker Sentry mix. And when I saw that push, I was going, ooh, it's going to be rough for Morrow. And instead, Morrow was like, Stalkers. And then when all the force fields ringed around everything, he just, I can put some Banelings here.
You know, one thing to keep in mind is that every Protoss is a way of dealing with things